Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. My name's Tremaine and you're watching Talking Cars with T. So before we get started, guys, let's address the elephant in the room, and that is of course the fact that I am a massive Manchester United fan. So fortunately or unfortunately for some, you're going to have to endure watching this entire video with this jersey on. And this is especially for you Liverpool fans. So without any further delay, let me introduce you to the next car in my collection. Welcome to my 1994 BMW E36 M3. And this is dressed in my absolutely favorite combination for the vehicle, which is the Avus Blue color with the Titan interior. And Titan is kind of a mixture between white and grey, but it's bang smack in the middle. The fantastic thing about this car is that this is the first M3 generation that was ever brought into South Africa. Unfortunately, we did not get the E30 M3, but this was the very first generation. That S50 engine with a 3-litre straight 6 pushing out 210 kilowatts is absolutely magnificent. This is my second M car that I bought, and I bought this car roughly 3 or 4 years ago. And the strangest thing is this car actually has a twin. So if you want to see that twin, you got to stay tuned to my channel to see what's coming up in the future. I love calling this car the OG because this shape is actually what made me fall in love with the BMW M brand, and specifically the M3. And you might be wondering, why does my thumbnail say, what is a German spec? Here, guys, I just like to clarify something very quickly. There is no such thing as a German spec. Often you heard people call these specific cars the German spec because they saw the Vader seats and they thought if it has the Vader seats, it's called a German spec. No, there is no such thing as a German spec. I suggest that you go online and do some research regarding SA spec or German spec, which is so often spoke about in our country. But if you want to see a real German spec, let me show you what a real German spec is. This right here is what you call a German spec. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Francisco. If you watched the previous video, I alluded to him, and this is our little boy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what you call a proper German spec. Shake my hand. Good boy, good boy. Now that you've met Francisco, I think it's time that I took you through the interior, exterior of the car, as well as us going for a drive. So take a look at this. I'm not sure about you guys, but this gets me every time when I approach these M cars. That M side sill is just absolutely magic. And here we have probably the most iconic part of this car. Speak to any true M enthusiast, they will tell you the most desirable seats on an E36 M3 are indeed what we call the Vader seats. And that's the M-Tech 2 steering wheel that is on this vehicle. That is the only aftermarket, if I can say so, part on the vehicle. I actually still have the original steering wheel, and the reason why it's changed is it's got a smaller diameter, so it's wrapped in full leather. But you know, this car, when you're throwing it into corners and so forth, that smaller diameter really helps quite a bit and gives you that better bit of handling on it. Mind you, these steering wheels on the market are exceptionally expensive. Moving further into the interior, let's take a look at these clocks. As you can see, the M logo right there in the center. I've still got the check engine oil sticker right there. And if we take a look at the mileage on this particular vehicle of mine, I've got 119,000. You absolutely gotta love that gear knob with the M logo in the center of it. As you can see, it's got a bit of wear and age to it, being 26 years old, but these are the things I absolutely love. And the radio here, still the factory radio with a CD shuttle in the boot, and that works 100% still all these years later. Back in 1994, this right here is what you would consider an onboard computer. So to give you an idea, all these little buttons here show me different things on this vehicle. So consumption being 39.5 liters per 100 kilometers. That's not accurate right now. I haven't driven the car just yet, so that's not the real consumption. That will of course come down as I drive it. Range, I can do 205 kilometers with the amount of fuel that I have in the vehicle. Temperature outside, it is a lovely day in Cape Town at 19 degrees Celsius. And here, this check button, this basically does a quick diagnostic on the vehicle to make sure everything is pretty much in place, all fluids up to date, all electronics working. So the moment you click check, it tells you everything is okay on the vehicle. And this was back in 1994. To open up the glove box, or the cubby as we commonly call it in South Africa, here's some real goodies for the true enthusiasts and collectors. Here you've got the infamous BMW cubby torch. So this little piece right here, you would charge up back in the day and you would use it as a torch. I am yet to see a torch that is working. So it's fantastic that I have this little novelty as part of the car, because that adds value and shows originality. So does the original manuals, owner's manual, as well as the service books. And if you've got these intact, another huge plus for your vehicle. To the right of that, I've got the stencil for the VIN that is engraved onto the windows of these cars. I unfortunately can't show you that number because that would give away the VIN of this vehicle, but another original piece and a lovely little novelty to add to the originality of this car. Moving into the boot of the vehicle, one thing most people look for in terms of originality is the full toolkit, and it's always great to have these little stickers from back in the day still intact. And there we go, that is still the original toolkit in the vehicle. And if you always hear guys speaking about, it's got its original toolkit in place, this is what they're referring to. For some odd reason, people go absolutely nuts for this. I can understand it because I go nuts for it myself, but having the original tools in place for this vehicle from back in the day, huge add-on on the vehicle. And that is the original CD shuttle from back in the day, with the cartridge still in place, and above that is the hazard triangle. And you've got some fairly big boot space, but under this grey carpet is the spare wheel. And of course, modern day M cars do not have a spare wheel nowadays. This car still has the M spare wheel with the jack there, as you can see to the right of that. Underneath the rim, you've got a sort of black plastic in place, and of course that black plastic on top of the rim protecting it against the carpet. All of that still in check for the vehicle. Coming through underneath the bonnet of the vehicle, here's another interesting quirk, is that little light underneath the bonnet there. Of course, that comes on once the ignition is on and the bonnet is open. But moving down here, you've got the fantastic M Power engine. Of course, straight six, once again, this is a 3-liter engine. Absolutely marvelous. As you can see, very original, and I try to keep the car as clean as possible and keep my hand on it. You know, one thing you've probably seen in the videos so far is I'm pretty much pedantic in trying to keep everything in place as best I can. Of course, there's always things that one can improve on. And that is the color code of the vehicle. Avus Blue in German, of course, is Avus Blue. So let's go ahead and take a walk around the E36 M3 and make you a little bit more familiar with the features of the vehicle. And I think we'll go ahead and start with a bit of an intriguing point on my specific car. That BMW badge right there, you can't really pick it up on the camera, but it's actually starting to yellow. and the reason why I haven't changed it is because that's the original badge that was placed on the vehicle from BMW factory, which makes it 26 years old. And yeah, I've got a bit of flack from friends and so forth in the past, but I've just decided not to change it. And if we move up onto the bonnet, you will see you've got these gills or slats as such on top there. That is also specific to the E36 M3. If you look at normal E36s, you will not find those there. Coming down onto the front bumper, I think let's firstly talk about these front grills. On the two-door M3, you'll notice that they are flat. On the four-door E36 M3, they are slightly curved. And these headlights here, if you can see that, they've got these little dots on them. Apparently, that is for extra aerodynamics. How far that is true or untrue, I'm not too sure. And of course, the E36 M3 has the motorsport bumper with the lovely little black lip in the front of that. So let's move on down the vehicle, talking about the exterior. And the next thing that I want to talk about are these BMW rims. These are called your double spoke M forged motorsport wheels. And here's another fun fact for you. If you look closely on the wheels, if you want to determine whether they are original or not, you will see that it has got an imprint on it. On this side here, you've got the BMW logo embossed, and on this side here, you've got the Motorsport logo embossed. And that's a direct giveaway, as well as that it's got 5 studs, because over the years we've seen these rims, you know, land on the aftermarket and just, you know, being mass produced. So that's a fun fact for you. And if I go further there, you've got the M3 badge on the beadings, as well as that beautiful wing style mirror. Another unique point is this side sill right here. You'll notice that it's got a bit of curve there as well as curve there. That is also unique to the E36 M3 and part of the motorsport kit. Also, regarding the rims, on the E36 M3, the front rims were narrows and the rear rims were wide. So you had that offset. They were not the exact same square set all around. Coming around the rear of the vehicle, you've got the M3 badging and the rear diffuser, part of the motorsport bumper, and of course the original OEM tailpipes. Okay, so let's go for a bit of a drive in the M3. First things first, this car has 210 kilowatts. Now, that might not sound like a lot in 2020, but 210 kilowatts 26 years ago in 1994 without traction control on this car, and that it has rear wheel drive only, is absolutely menacing. And that's why you always heard of people crashing these cars and, you know, wrapping them around trees or into corners and so forth, because I mean, think about it, 26 years ago with 210 kilowatts, that is absolutely insane power. Mind you, it definitely does not feel all that fast. I mean, I'm driving it normally right now, and as you can see, it's going pretty normal. But once you start spinning this up into the higher revs, if I give it a bit of a pull now, I mean, it's crazy, and you have absolutely no driver assist, and that's why I can understand why back then, you know, these cars were just a dime a dozen, and they were written off every other weekend as such. Fortunately, I'm not one of those drivers. I care for my car, and we try and take as much care as possible to keep it in this pristine condition. I think on that note, I will see you again in the Talking Cars with T garage, and we'll take you through a few more things over there. If you've watched my first video, you'd notice that I want to take you through the journey of me acquiring these cars, as well as a bit of my personality. So I wanted to share a quick story with you about putting things into the universe, hoping that one day, someday, it will come true. I've got a magazine here. You probably can't see this, but this is a magazine from March 2007. So it's 13 years old, and it's got the E92 M3 on the cover. But what's interesting is I always used to buy magazines and keep them, and I've got a huge collection of it. But what's interesting about this is that in March of 2007, I obviously did not own this car then, and I actually just moved to Cape Town, and that was 13 years ago. But as you know, this was a dream of mine. So what I did in 2007 is I printed this picture and I kept it in this magazine, hoping and dreaming that one day I would own this car. And I just want to show you something. This is the picture that I printed. It's in black and white, but the color of the car is Avus Blue. And as you can see from the paper, it's very worn. This printed piece of paper is 13 years old. And the story behind it was, back then, I already had these dreams of acquiring these cars, and I've kept it ever since then. And I just want to, once again, give whoever it may be hope out there, is that if you have these dreams, it may not be cars, it may be other aspirations, but put it into the universe, work damn hard at it, and somehow or the other, these things materialize. So I'm going to finish up drinking this tea, and we're going to do the very last test, the big test. But this time around, we've got a bit of a spanner in the works, if you call it that. So let's go straight to that. Now it's time for the ultimate test. And of course, that's to see if my fiancée is able to fit into the boot of this E36 M3. However, this week, if she can do it with a cup of tea in her hands. Guys, I really hope that she does not spill tea in my beautiful M3. Well, I guess it's another video where she succeeds and fits into the boot. Guys, I really want to thank you so much for watching the previous video. If you haven't done that already, please go ahead and do that. Go ahead and smash the like button for this video. And if you've not subscribed to the channel as yet, please go ahead and do so. Thank you for all the support thus far. And once again, thank you so much for watching Talking Cars with T.